Yeah, welcome to Drinkin, Bros. Kids, got a childhood favorite on the show today, D'Anthony. Rick Reilly, one of the greatest sports writers of our generation, is on the show today. If you'd have told a young me who used to get Sports Illustrated sent to my house in my mailbox every day that we would have Rick Reilly on our program, I would have told you were insane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think if you were to try to convince me that you were young, I would call you totally insane.
Like, stop it. Rick, do I look young? How old do I look to you?
You look good. What I want to know is, why do you start with the old crap with me? Oh, when I first learned to read, I would read your column. I know I'm old, but geez, you got to start with that?
It's not that, but look, very few writers influence you. And as a kid, we didn't have that much money. So I had two subscriptions to magazines. It was Mad Magazine. And as soon as I would get it, I would fold the cover in half to see what the other cover was. And the other one was Sports Illustrated. And I would immediately go to the last page to read your articles every single time, because the rest of it was clinical in Sports Illustrated.
Did you know that with my magazine, with my back page, you could do that mad thing and fold it a third, and then it would make a whole new column?
It's all in Braille.
Probably missing some context, but fuck it, why not?
Yeah, probably missing some context. Read your book.
You're right. I mean, when I was a kid, I would run to the mailbox and to read Dan Jenkins.
Really? Dan Jenkins was your jam?
Yeah. Texas guy.
Yeah. Yeah, we're down in Texas. We're in Austin, Texas here.
I knew, yeah.
I read your book over the weekend, So Help Me Golf. Fantastic. Look, again, it's like reading all of your the back pages of Sports Illustrated all over again. It's a compilation of about 80 or so stories, and there's some wild ones in there. That Michael Jordan story, I've never heard, and I feel like you just outed Michael Jordan to the world, that he's a cheater and he's cheating people out of money.
Well, first of all, it's all new columns. So it's 80 new columns about golf, and how much idiots like me just get it into their blood, and it becomes part of your life. Like, it's more than becomes a game. It becomes, your sort of weird family, because my family was so fucked up. I had a drunk dad that would, come home drunk, and you could hear those spikes coming up the sidewalk, and like, oh shit, that meant you had to hide when you're 7 years old, or, and my mom couldn't hide. And so it was bad. So I kind of wanted to tell how come I love golf, because I found out my dad's violence had nothing to do with golf. So I discovered it as a teenager, like, oh, this is a great game. And I realized it wasn't golf's fault. And so maybe I love it more even because of that. So it's all these news stories about golf. So Michael Jordan has a course outside Jupiter. It's called the Grove 23. But the pros call it Slaughterhouse 23 because he built it just for his game. He hits it about 250. And then after so it's wide open to 250. It's like open like a new 7-Eleven. But after that, it's impossible. It's hell's half acre. It's water. It's bunkers. So the pros like Ricky Fowler, Justin Thomas have to give him pretty much a shot a hole. And they got no chance because he's fantastic with his iron game. So that's why they call it Slaughterhouse 23. The other thing about that course is Jordan never stops. He wants to play always 36 and always in less than 6 hours. So 2 3-hour rounds. But you don't get to stop. You don't get to go, take a leak or anything. So if you want a beer or a hamburger or something, it comes by drone.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
That's pretty dope, yeah.
Drone comes down with your little hamburger.
And he probably has, instead of greenies in it, he probably has like Valium or something to slow you down so you don't shoot as fast.
Oh yeah, he's always looking for the advantage, and that's what I took away from it. Was a lot of these stories. You don't need to necessarily love golf to learn about something. Like Michael Jordan was about the advantage. There was a story in there you told about a POW prisoner who was playing golf in his cell, and I mean that was an incredible story. How did you get to sit down and talk to that man?
Well, can I tell it?
Yeah.
So in 1965, this Air Force pilot named Colonel George Hall was flying reconnaissance over North Vietnam, got shot down, and put in the Hanoi Hilton, where John McCain spent 5 years. Mm-hmm. The isolation cell he got put in was 6 foot by 7 foot with no windows. So, I mean, it's hell. No, his family doesn't know if he's alive or dead. The U.S. doesn't know if he's alive or dead. One day in the first month, he finds a stick in the yard. He gets 15 minutes a day in the yard. From that day forward, he played golf every single day for 4 years. So he'd get up, kiss his wife goodbye, get in the car, drive down the streets of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, wave at the used car guy that he's friends with, wave at the lady that ran the grocery store, pull in, kid with the shoe shine guy, meet his 3 buddies, play golf. So he'd swing, right? Mm-hmm. He usually hits at about 240. He would pace off the 240 in his cell. Now he's left with 132. Well, for him, that was an 8-iron. He'd swing, pace off the 132. Then he'd know the putt was a right to left breaker, putt that one, always make par. And then tell jokes to his buddies, oh, this and that. Oh, hey, there's Mrs. Havemeyer. Hey, Mrs. Havemeyer, did Charlie fix the roof yet? No, I hope it doesn't rain. Ha, ha, ha. And he'd play every day. So after 7 years in Vietnam, in a prison, he came home to Hattiesburg, Mississippi, 103 pounds. He left at 175. They get him up in front of the whole town at the airport. And he wants to tell them what they meant to him. And he just starts crying because he sees Mrs. Havermeyer and he sees the shoe shine guy and he sees the grocery store lady. And he finally says, through his tears, he said, you guys saved my life. This game and knowing you and remembering kept me sane because a lot of guys didn't come back. They went crazy. Yeah. Because you sit in that little room for 7 years, you go out of your mind.
Well, we remember Admiral Stockdale. Remember that guy?
He died, so I didn't get to talk to him, but it was such a gripping story. And his son is now a golf pro.
Wow, really?
That's great. I mean, that's beyond like him thanking the hometown residents and shit. That's a pretty next level mental toughness.
Oh yeah,
to be able to create your own world, to satiate your brain for a while until you can get out of it. That's an extremely impressive thing.
You know, that's what he said. He did do one interview, and he said it gave my life some kind of schedule, some kind of meaning, where I didn't just go crazy. Plus, they don't give you any health care. He had every disease you could get in that sort of cell. So he's just battling through it. And he got out, and they didn't even know he was alive. And, you know, golf is like that. I mean, here's a little story. My brother is, you know, sort of my hero in all this. He's the guy that taught me to play golf. And he plays with this at this municipal course outside Boulder, Colorado. And there's this sad sack guy called Saul Goldberg. And Saul Goldberg at one time was a teaching pro, and then he fell on hard times. And he'd win $5 or $10 playing golf, and then he'd lose it all playing dice. And Saul got so down on his luck. He was probably 70 at the time. He didn't even have a TV. He had to hawk it, and he couldn't watch the Broncos game. So all these guys, his buddies, got together and said, let's buy a TV for Saul. And my brother said the smart thing, which was, no, that would be worse. You know, for us to treat him like a charity case. So they didn't buy a TV for Saul. But 6 months later, they had a raffle. And the raffle first place was a big screen TV, right? And so everybody bought a ticket. My brother bought 3 or 4. Saul even came up with the $10 for the ticket. What do you know? They reach in the hat. The winner of the TV set is Saul Goldberg. And he gets up and says, yeah, sucks to be you guys. He takes the TV and he straps it to his Buick, you know, and he's driving home. See you guys, come see my TV. You know, he's all cocky. But what he didn't know that every guy in the group had written Saul's name on the ticket.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Golf just becomes his family. I think because we play it so long. Like I played high school sports, but I don't have any more baseball stories after 18. But for golf, you have till you're, I'm still playing. So I think that's why it becomes something really deeply and gets into your veins.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, I've recently revisited golf because one of our producers, Delco Dan, hosts a golf show for us because gambling in golf has become really huge. The ratings have gone up, and I don't think it's a coincidence. I also think there's a lot of great golfers that are out on tour these days, and it's not just Tiger Woods. Right. Do you gamble on golf at all, as far as on a week-by-week basis, now that there's been this resurgence in it? Oh, hell yeah.
Well, we have a schedule. We have not only do we play a lot of pig and wolf and sweat and stuff like that, but we have a schedule of fines. Hackalooski is $2. That's a higher handicap.
You've got your own kangaroo court inside of your friend group.
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
It's $2 if a higher handicap player gives a lower handicap player advice. It's $1 if you bitch and it ends up on the green. It's $5 if you blame your caddy, like on the few days we get a caddy and you blame him for doing something. It's $1 if you're looking out of bounds for a guy's ball. There's there's all kinds of bets. And then of course, like Saul, we can all, the most we'll win is $20-30. And then of course we always blow it playing dice.
Always. But I also meant, do you bet on the PGA Tour week to week? You know so much about it. One would think you would have a massive advantage.
I do well at it. I've definitely got a bet on Tiger to win the to win the Open Championship at St. Andrews because it's flat.
No hills.
You can walk that thing forever. And you can drive it anywhere. You can drive it anywhere on the map and be fine. And he's always dominated St. Andrews for that reason, because the worst part of his game is his driver. And, I think that's a course that he could, if it's warm now, if it's cold, he's got no chance because the back stiffens up, the two knees stiffen up. Mm-hmm. But that's a pretty good, that's not I think I got 20-1. So that's pretty good. So yeah, I do enjoy the gambling. You couldn't do it at Sports Illustrated or ESPN because you'd get fired, but now who cares?
Yeah, now it's incorporated as part of their scroll at the bottom of the screen.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Did you see watching the Warriors game the other night? They even used it as an illustrative point to explain the game to people. Okay, the over-under when we started was 221. Now that everyone went colder, than my first wife, now it's 180. See that? They're using it as part of their stats.
It's live line betting, but it is increased ratings across the board, NFL, NBA, because now everybody's into it. If you have something on the game, a lot like golf when you're out with your buddies, even if you have $5 on an NBA game in the background, you care. And I think people are just doing it for some little form of excitement to get through the weekends or the weeknights or whatever they're going through.
It's sports. I've covered it for 45 years. Gambling drives sports. It's just now it's easy.
Yeah,
now it's super easy.
It's
back to Jordan, you have to bet him. He doesn't care if you bet $10 or 10,000 a hole. And I know guys that bet him 10,000 a hole. You got to bet him. But if you get to a green and you have the same length putt or the same length chip outside the green, he pulls out a cigar, which was rolled by an actual Cuban cigar roller in the lobby of the club. Pulls it out and goes, "We got something on these putts, right? And you better have 10 or $20 on the putt." The guy can't live without gambling.
Man, another guy who can't live without gambling is mentioned in your book. However, I'm assuming it went to your editor before the story became public. Phil Mickelson, who's a friend of yours. What do you think is Shipnuck in this book that's coming out with Phil?
Well, okay. So I've known Phil forever. I like him so much. He's such good company. He's interesting. He's a great quote. Now, Phil always tries to be about 23% more clever than he needs to be. I'll give you an example. One time I see him at the Masters. I'm like, "Well, what do you think?" He goes, "I got it." He says, "I'm not carrying a 5-iron this week." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, Bones and I went through all the yardage books and we realized we don't hit 5-iron hardly ever. So I'm not carrying a 5-iron, which allows me to put in an extra 3-wood or whatever that he double hook faced or something. And so I feel like I got him at a real advantage." So Thursday he shot 78 and I go up to Bones. I'm like, "Bet you needed that 5-iron." He goes, "All day long, all day long." So Phil, though, when he's off the record, throws around a lot of motherfucks and this and that. And he's kind of dirty. He's just like a guy, right?
Yeah.
But he thinks he's off the record. So you're like, Phil, I got to have on the record stuff. I'm using this shit. So say it again. And then he says it again in a corporate way. And he takes out the dirty stuff and he makes it more sane. So when I read those quotes about, these motherfucking Saudis and they killed journalists, but they're not as bad as the PGA Tour or whatever stupid thing he said, I'm like, oh shit, he thought he was off the record. Which came out and said, those were off the record. Shipnuck says, no, he called me. They were on the record. I don't know what happened. Shipnuck's a hell of a reporter, but Phil's a hell of a guy who knows how to handle his career. And so now he's out. He's been out since January. It's unbelievable to me that this is such a controversy when Tiger, Norman, all those guys used to go to Saudi Arabia and take that $3 million guarantee. That was always part of the deal. When you got that big, you could go there. Dustin Johnson. Now, all of a sudden, we're so upset about the Saudis. Well, where were you all these years for 30 years?
Yeah, what do you think is going to happen with that? Because, I know that Saudi League is starting up soon. A couple of guys are switching over. Sergio Garcia on the course and on a hot mic said, I can't wait to get the hell out of here. What do you think is going to happen with that?
Well, first of all, thank you, Saudis, for taking Sergio off our hands. Love that. I think it's just going to be like a tweener league between the real tour and the seniors tour. So I think it's going to be Lee Westwood and Ian Poulter and Sergio and, I don't know, guys that are, 45 to 50, maybe a Furyk or something. I don't think it's going to be much. I mean, we've seen this a million times. You can't compete with the money, the courses, and the convenience of the PGA Tour. And people have come and gone, and they never can beat it. So I think it'll be kind of a tweener thing, kind of a Corn Ferry Tour for guys in their late 40s.
And what do you think the Saudi folks think they can just spend their way out of that problem? I mean, a lot of people have tried to spend their way out of that problem.
Yeah.
And by that problem, I mean the fact that the courses on the tour have existed for a very long time and have very long relationships with the PGA, and they're not giving them up, right? And it doesn't matter how much Saudi money you come up with, I don't think.
Right. I think they did think they could spend their way out of that problem. But have you ever tried to fly to Riyadh?
No, he has actually. Yeah, he was military.
Yeah. Where'd you go?
We went to Iraq ultimately, but yeah, it's not easy to get in and out of that fucking place.
And how about once you're there, how freaking hot it is?
Well, yeah, we live in Austin, so it's hot here too.
Yeah, it's about 104.
But I do remember pretty routine 120, 125 degree days. It's not fun.
But not to get too political either, but in what conscience, what is wrong with your conscience that you can go somewhere where they murder journalists? They executed 86 people last year, just executed them without trials. Mm-hmm. They're really bad with women's rights. I mean, they're almost as bad. They actually have more lenient abortion rules than we do. You can get an abortion in Saudi Arabia if they think it will be detrimental to the health of the woman physically or mentally. You don't even get that here now. So, but I still say, why would you go there and support that government when life is pretty good? I mean, there's an old saying, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Back to your book here. Dan and I have often joked that Jim Nantz has the greatest life of all time. You talk about what an asshole he is for being such a nice guy in the book. I'm with you. I was almost disappointed to read that he was such a nice guy in your book. I was like, I wanted to hate Jim Nantz because we do a ton of events. We're always traveling with, whatever the top sporting event is. And that guy is doing March Madness, and then he's doing the Masters, and there's one more that is sandwiched in there. What am I forgetting?
Super Bowl. In one year, he did all the NFL, then the Super Bowl, then he goes to March Madness, Final Four, Masters. I mean, and then more golf. I mean, he's got the greatest life. He's got a great wife. He's got a house on Pebble Beach, although he's moving to Nashville. He's just a great guy, and I'm just sick of being happy for him.
Yeah,
because he's handsome. And he remembers everybody's names. So I always give him shit. I'm like, hey, Jim, you and your wife should make a sex tape, and you can start with, "Hello, friends, we're here." He's like, oh, you can't say that, Rick. You can't say it.
No, you definitely can. Hello, friends. That would be great. If he just looks right down the barrel of the camera, too, and he's like, hello, friends. That would be fantastic. And then the music started playing in the background.
I always give him shit because I'm like, Jim, I know you're just dying to get to your notes, and you just can't wait for the guy to have the tournament sewn up on 18 so you can go, well, I wonder what they're thinking back in Oxford, Mississippi, and their nanny, Alice, who's recovering now from a open heart surgery. Seriously. And who can forget it? Where is all this shit all week?
It's like the broadcasters from what was it? Was it Little Big League? where the Twins broadcasters were like, he's hitting 400 in the month of May after 8 p.m. on days that end in wire.
Yeah.
Like, where? Let me see your notes, bud. Where is this coming from?
See that. I gotta have a red check on that.
Yeah, but I think John Anik's like that.
I was just gonna say that. So our buddy John Anik calls all the UFC fights, and his notes are intense.
It's on 5x8 cards.
5x8 cards,
but it's written in every possible direction and stuff. He's got it's
very, very, very tiny, and the dedication and work that he puts into his craft is unbelievable. Is Nance the same way?
Yeah, Nance is incredible that way. And they'll call him like, "Sorry, I'm getting ready for the game." I'm like, "It's Monday. The soonest the game can be is." Yeah, sorry. Yeah, he's such a sweet guy though. So he lives at Pebble Beach right now. He works for Titleist, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, what's your perfect day with you and your 5-year-old son? We go look for balls. If you look for balls, you can get all the free balls you want. Don't tell him that. He's just the loveliest guy, and he'll put his voice on your answering machine, anybody's answering machine. He remembers everybody's name. The only guy with a better memory is Barkley. Like you're around Barkley, and people will come up and go, "Oh, yeah, you probably don't remember us, Charles." And he'll go, "Yes, I do. Amber, and this is your cousin, Jennifer, and I signed a visor for you and a ball for you." And he'll be right.
Yeah.
It's amazing. That's kind of how Nance is.
You wrote a book about that, didn't you? The Wit and Wisdom of Sir Charles or something like that. What was the name of the book? The Wit and Wisdom of Sir Charles or Charles Barkley? It was
Sir Charles Barkley, I believe, yeah.
Right. And it's dangerous when you write Charles' books. You write his books for him, and then you'll say something controversial that he gave you, and then he'll go, "I was misquoted," and you're like, "Your book."
He's not one to really steer away from controversy, though. He said that women in San Antonio are fat, and people were like, "Whoa, you can't say that." And he goes, "Women in San Antonio are fat."
Yeah.
You can look it up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not making it up, dude. Shit.
And if you go there, you confirm it pretty quickly as soon as you step off the bus or out of the Uber there, where you're like, "Oh yeah, he's right. Charles was right."
So speaking of golf and Charles, I think there's a story in the book, but one time he was in my group for 3 days at the Tahoe thing, and at the Tahoe thing, once you get to double bogey, you got to put your ball in your pocket and go, or else because some of these guys are terrible. So we get to the 5th hole, and there's 500 people waiting on the green, and he's got his ball in his pocket. So I got up and said, "Hey, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see Charles Barkley play golf, you got to come to the tee box because he's in his pocket, usually by the red tees. He's terrible." And the whole crowd laughed, and he came up and he just towers over you and he goes, "It's not nice to make fun of fat people."
He's still one of the best in the biz. Yeah. He's on TNT every night, and that shows an absolute delight with him. I tune in for him, even during a blowout.
The announcer trying to make it seem like it's a good game or everyone's playing great and they're all nice people. Yeah. And you wait for TNT and they cut to Charles and he goes, This game's set in basketball 40 years. These guys it's terrible. He tells the truth.
Yeah, one of the best to do it. Do you follow the NBA still? Do you watch it at night? Are you watching the NBA playoffs right now?
Yeah, because I don't have to write about it anymore and I can drink a beer with my buddies and watch the NBA. So we were watching it last night. Yeah, it's fun, right?
It is. A lot of people have bitched that, LeBron is not in it. Me personally, there's so much talent in the league that I don't care. I have not missed LeBron this playoffs at all. What about you?
Well, let me ask you this. People always say, "Oh, how great LeBron is." But, I covered Michael Jordan. I covered Larry Bird. I mean, the artistry that Michael Jordan had to get open, he would just leave people dumbfounded. Guys would be looking over there and he's back here. LeBron is just clear the hell out, start at the half court, come barreling down, clear you out, and make a layup. I don't think he's in our top 1,000 best shooters of all time. He's a wonderful guy, but okay. So he's in the top 5, I guess, but it's not a joy to watch him. It is a joy to watch Steph Curry. It's a joy to watch John Morant. Doncic. All these guys are incredibly skilled, Whereas I kind of always think of LeBron as just the 5'15" train from Phoenix that's just going to knock your ass over and put it in the hoop.
That's the way we feel about it. We're not huge LeBron fans here. Kobe was my dude personally. I'm sure you covered Kobe at some point. What was he like in real life?
Here's what Kobe was like. This is why Shaq hated him and he hated Shaq. Kobe, since he's been 17 or 18, is like a 38-year-old. He was always the coach. He was the dad. Hey, we got to stay longer, practice. Who wants to get extra credit? Clap the erasers for the teacher. He was just an achiever. Here's what he did. So I play the piano. I play a lot of piano. He wanted something special for his wife, Vanessa, but he wanted something that you couldn't buy. So having never played the piano, he learned to play Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven, played it so good over that year that he could play it with his eyes closed. Didn't know anything about the notes. He didn't know anything about chords. He didn't know anything about music theory, but he could do it. And that's what he surprised her with for her birthday. Now, who the F takes that much time? I used to commute with him from his house in Newport to the games for information and stuff. And I'd have to get there at 4:45. He'd get it because he'd be up ready to go. And he was always early. Where you been? Then we'd drive. He would work out from 5:30 to 7, park that yellow Ferrari right in front. He didn't care about rules. But then he would go do business and go to shoot around and sleep and then go to the game and then ice all the way home. The guy was just such a hard worker. I don't think he always said, if Shaq would have worked harder, he could have been the greatest player of all time. And I kind of agree.
Yeah, I do too. I was watching they had a highlight compilation the other night on that House of Highlights.
Yeah, and it's become relevant again too because Rudy Gobert said he would have been able to handle Shaq,
right,
or something like that. Like, dude, we've got all the tape of him making David Robinson look like a child.
Yeah.
Like, you think you're going to be the one to take him down? Get the fuck out of here.
Not one single prayer on this earth. And when they showed that highlight footage, you forgot how great Shaq really was.
The footwork mostly.
Yes.
Like, the big body is what it is, but his footwork in the low post is the best I think we've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible to watch. And if he existed today, in my opinion, it would still be the same dominance, do you think?
I think so, but I'm just saying, if he'd have worked as hard as Kobe,
oh yeah,
it would have been 60 points a night and he'd have won every title. Yeah. But still, he's one of my favorite guys ever, and he's great fun to give crap to. And so one time I went up to him, I said, Shaq, I collect sentences in my computer that have never been uttered in the history of the English language, and I want to give you a few. And he goes, okay. And I said, okay, the first one is, Tiger, meet my sister. You're not going to say that. You're never going to say that. Another one's like, hey, Donald Sterling's coming to my Kwanzaa party. That's not going to happen. And I said, the last one is, Shaq, you shoot the technical. It's never been said, right? He's like, but he'll take a joke as good as anybody.
Yeah, I really enjoy that crew. Ernie and Kenny the Jet, all those guys, they're real fun together.
Yeah, do you look at the salaries they're making and are you jealous? Like, Tom Brady just signed for $175 million yesterday. No, $375, I'm sorry. Yeah. $375 million yesterday.
I'm just happy that Tom finally got a break in life,
He's the Jim Nance of football, huh?
Yeah, my God.
Really nice. He's really nice.
Yeah, have you hung out with Tom Brady? Do you know him in real life?
He doesn't let you hang out much. One week I was one of those guys with the muskets at a Patriots game. You know those guys that shoot the thing? It's an actual musket. Yeah. Actually shoot, except there's no ball. And he came out to me before the game and goes, "You look sexy." He's a great guy, but Belichick really kept him under wraps. And I don't know if he's going to be any good. Is my problem. But he's a fun guy, and he's really polite and nice. I don't know if he's going to be any good at calling the game. That may be the only job in the world where you get a 10-year, $375 million deal with no experience.
Yeah.
Well, he made an appearance on the.
He'd never been elected anything. And
yeah, that's true.
Some people liked him, so I don't know.
Was he on any of those episodes, the alt cast with the Manning brothers?
Yeah, he popped in. Oh, yeah. He's got a dry wit to him. I enjoy Brady, but I'm with you. I don't know that any of us really know anything about him.
I don't know if dry wit is what you want your color guy having in the booth necessarily.
It depends, because Romo's pretty funny as well, and it's kind of dry. So I'm not sure how it works, but there was also a story about Kobe Bryant being hired to TNT, and then ultimately he turned it down.
What's amazing to me is by far the funniest, smartest analyst there could ever be is Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
And he doesn't seem to want to do the work. Phil Mickelson is going to be the best golf analyst we'll ever have, and I think he will do it. He did one tournament, and he was so good. Oh, my God, he was so good and funny and quick. And he already had the rhythm where, you have 7 seconds, you get out. I mean, Tom's got a lot to learn. And of course, they must have done some video games for him to call with the partner. I guess it's this new guy, Burkhart. But that's a hard job, and you can fall on your face pretty quick. Ask Witten from the Cowboys.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, Dan and I, we do about an hour and a half every day. NFL, you're looking at close to 3.5 hours for that. It's hard to fill up that much time.
Yeah, but you have to fit it in. I'm in LA at a club with like all the good announcers. We got Joe Buck, Nance, Al Michaels, Vince Scully. And we talk about it. They said the biggest problem is people start stories that can't be done by the time I got to set up the next play. And Vince Scully always say, because I did some baseball color just for laughs. And he said, whatever you do not start a story with 1 out or more. I'm like, what do you mean? He says, well, if there's 1 out or more and there's somebody on base, you could start your whole story, get your grandmother up a tree, and all of a sudden double play, we got to go to ad. And he was right. I remember I was doing play-by-play for a column once, and I screwed up some call. And then I had to read like a 10-second ad for La Quinta Hotels. You know how they have little plugs within the broadcast? Mm-hmm. And I go, La Quinta Hotels, that's Spanish for next to Denny's. and the director's like, we never make fun of the sponsors. What are you doing? I'm like, oh, sorry.
Well, that's not as bad as Tom Brenneman, right?
Yeah, no.
Like hearing him call that fly out right afterwards is like one of the more surreal moments of my life. I've done a lot of fucked up shit and been in some weird situations, dangerous situations. But I think that might be the only time I truly felt uncomfortable.
Well, go through it. Tell him what he said.
Well, he said he said something about who were they playing? Whatever city it was had a bunch of gay bars or something, or a bunch of gay dudes.
They were playing the Royals.
Yeah.
And it was one of the the city was never identified, but he was essentially like, that's one of the great F-word cities of all time.
Yeah.
And
that's from Blazing Saddles, right? Kansas City.
Yeah. So he might have been referencing KC.
Yeah, but then he realizes he's on a hot mic and he goes, and he flies out the left. Like, oh shit.
It's so good.
Yeah, it was.
Unfortunately. I remember the time Harry Carey, I think it was just before the playoffs were about to start, and there was a fly ball to some guy in left field, and he's like, there's a long fly ball, should be an easy catch. And he drops it. How could he drop it? Oh, he says, he drops it. He lost it in the sun. How could he lose it in the sun? He's a Mexican. And you're like, how is this guy still employed? That's back when you could get away with stupid shit.
I think Harry Carey was kept around because he had drank all the alcohol and they were still squeezing it out of him.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody else could get a drink. Jesus Christ.
I loved watching his games as a kid on WGN.
He and Steve Stone together is one of my favorite all-time podcasts.
All time. For sure. Are you watching Winning Time at all? And the reason I ask is, since we're on the topic of announcers, it made me realize how much I miss Chick Hearn. Because I lived in LA for like 18 years, and I would always keep the Lakers games on in the background, and Chick Hearn was the best. Are you watching Winning Time, and did you see what they've said about him in the series?
Yeah, well, first of all, in regard to Chick Hearn, he was so good. You remember the ball would spin around and go like a motorcycle in a velodrome.
Yeah.
Or if Kobe or somebody would fake it, everybody would go up and he'd go like kernels in a popcorn machine and all this stuff. He had so many great bits. But okay, yes, I'm watching it, and having lived it, it's kind of disgusting because I'm friends with Jerry West. I mean, I see him every day at the golf course. He's not a drunk. He's not a temper thrower. He's depressed. He's never had a fun day, but he's not at all like they picture him that. I know Paul Westhead, or knew him, and he was not a pussy. He was not the scared little creep they have in that show. I knew Spencer Haywood. He was kind of crazy, yeah, but not as bad as they made him out. They're making Chick Hearn out to be some kind of egomaniac. He was a fun guy. I mean, I understand making things entertaining, but then you should say, this is all fiction, and don't use their names. They're using names, jerseys, likeness. The story's pretty true for a long time, and then they go off on crazy, ridiculous. For instance, they got Dr. Bust playing golf. He never played golf. And there's just all kinds of wrong things in there. But then I was thinking to myself, yeah, but I like The Crown, and that's probably full of lies too. So I don't know what to say about it.
Well, with Jerry West, he's asked for a public apology from HBO and the series creator. Did you chat with him? And were you like, hey, dude, what the hell's going on? Because, I read it, I watched it. I didn't think he was portrayed that bad. And he was one of my favorite characters in the show.
Well, you're kind of right. The first 2 episodes, they made him look really terrible. And then they started to kind of rehabilitate him. But he's not a drunk, and they had him drunk. He's not a temper thrower. They had him throwing most valuable player through the window of a building. They've got him just being out of control. And if there's anything Jerry West is, it's in control. But he's not the kind of warm, cuddly guy you go up and chat with. He'll come and chat with you, but he has not approached me to talk about this subject. And with Jerry, you let him be.
That's funny. Yeah, because we weren't, around for that. You were. I feel like you covered the best eras of all time. Where today, social media has taken over and it's guys doing TikTok dances and bullshit like that. Where with you, guys were smoking in the locker room, firing up heaters, drinking.
I can remember covering the Cubs, and Mark Grace was sitting right by the door of the clubhouse, and he'd have this giant ashtray with just full of heater stubs, right? And I walk in, he goes, Reilly, he wants to get the fucking guy? I'm like, what guy? Guy that made you wear that shirt. There were just guys like that. Quick story about the Lakers. Remember when they won something like 32 straight games?
Yeah.
My buddy Mal Florence was the beat guy. He's dead now, but on the LA Times. And after the 32nd game, Mal had to go home. Just his mother had died or something terrible. So he had to go home and leave the team. And so he's got his bag packed. He's in the lobby about to catch his cab. And in walks Bill Sharman. And he looks at Mal Florence. This is after their first loss and 32 straight games. And Sharman says, where are you going? He goes, I don't cover fucking losers.
That's pretty good.
That's the way it should be, though. Look, if you're a fucking loser, you don't get covered. I'm sorry. That's the way it is. Who's one of the greatest sports figures you got to cover over the years? I know you were kind of anti-Tiger Woods in your book, and I understand it. There was more colorful personalities, and in your book you described that the game of golf at that time, he really wasn't going up against the level of competition that people are going up against today, or Jack Nicklaus. Was there anybody else that was huge, like Jordan and those guys that you love to cover day in and day out?
Just to explain about Tiger. So this book is pretty much a Valentine to golf, but in the middle I do one 2-page section about all the stuff that pisses me off. Yes, Tiger's the greatest golfer I've ever seen. I love his game. I do anything to have his game. I just don't like the man. He doesn't tip people. He doesn't sign. Every joke is just some dirty, awful joke. He gets up after the dinner, and when he has dinner with you, and then leaves. He doesn't eat dessert, so he doesn't pay. So he's just not he didn't go to any kind of charm school. Compare that to Phil, who always tips with hundreds and not just one. He'll come to my club and carry his own bag and have a caddy come along to help him with reads and stuff. and give the guy $800. The guy didn't even have to carry the bag. So I'm just saying there are wonderful people in golf, and Tiger's an incredible player, but he's not had a life that I admire. So that's all I said. And when people go, "Oh, what is all the stuff Tiger's been through?" Everything Tiger's had go wrong was an unforced error. I mean, not 10 miles from here, he went off the road asleep, no skid marks, through 2 oncoming lanes, a sign, and a tree. And so what has he been through? Well, he's been through 2 oncoming lanes where your daughter could have been driving. So that's Tiger. But people that I just thought were fascinating to be around, Mike Tyson. Mm-hmm. I mean, just fascinating. Like, you never knew what kind of mood you were going to get him in. and sometimes it's like he was kind of an idiot savant. Like you could talk boxing history with him forever. But just simple things like one time they came in and said, "Hey, the next guy to talk to you, Mike, before a fight is Dave Raffo from UPI." So Dave Raffo comes in and he goes, "Fuck you." And Dave's like, "What'd I do?" And Dave goes, and Tyson goes, "One of your trucks ran over my dog." Like, no, that's UPS. It's UPI. It was the News Bureau, United Press. And he goes, "It's not the same thing." No, it's not the same thing. So you never knew with Tyson what you were going to get, but it was always amazing.
Well, you know what you're going to get if you get drunk and harass him on a plane, I suppose.
Yeah, you're going to get that 1-2. You're going to get that 3-piece. By the way, no charges filed. That was the verdict yesterday. Yeah.
No charges filed?
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess he was justified in beating the shit out of that man on the plane.
One story about, remember the fight with Lennox Lewis, and I covered it, and he was talking about he was going to eat Lennox Lewis's children, and he was just a monster, and he went on that rant at the weigh-in, and then during the round, he just got hit so loopy, he falls right in front of me. Somehow I was right courtside, and his eyes were like a million miles away, and he's groping for the mouthpiece and all that.
Yep.
But this guy is an animal, and he lost the fight, and somehow I got in the locker room before anybody else, and it was just Mike, and they'd already cut his gloves, and he's holding his little baby, and he was cooing with the baby, and his eyes are just nearly science fiction movies, and he was so sweet with his baby, and I wanted to say, "Holy shit, get social services, that guy's going to eat that baby." But actually, it just reminded me that Mike really knew how to put on a show, and a lot of it was just the show.
Yeah, and by the way, I was at that fight actually, and the atmosphere. It was in Memphis, and the atmosphere in there, that was one of the loudest environments I've ever been in my entire life, and there isn't many moments like that in life. And since you brought it up, especially in sports, there's been a couple times where I just physically couldn't hear the world around me. That Tyson Lewis fight was one of them. Penn State, Ohio State for that whiteout game that you and I were at. Mm-hmm. And then Mayweather versus De La Hoya was like that as well, where I couldn't hear my own voice, and it was so loud in there. You've been to every sporting event ever, I feel like. What was the loudest and what was the most exciting for you?
Well, I was in Albuquerque when the North Carolina State upsets Houston with the air ball, and Valvano runs around, and literally your ears it was like going through you. But I think the most exciting moment was Jack Nicklaus, the Masters, 86. He's 5 down at the turn. And suddenly this guy who's 46 years old and admits he's not able to see the ball hit the green is just making birdie after birdie and chasing suddenly and he's got his kid on the bag. And, Jack is shrinking. So he's like, I saw him the other day in Florida. I spent a day at his house, and he's like, he used to be here on me, and now he's here. But so it was this amazing moment, and it was so loud as he made that birdie on 16. And people just people that were working there, working the sandwich stands, just said, "Bucket," and they ran. They ran to follow him. And women were climbing trees, and men were crying that Jack Nicklaus is going to win the Masters. And that was an amazingly unforgettable day. Same with Tiger, won in 97. I remember he goes through that phalanx of security trying to get to Butler Cabin, and there's 2 ropes, and the cops are trying to fight people off. And this fat guy is patting him on, trying to just touch the man, just touch this man that's going to change golf forever, which he did. Mm-hmm. And I turned and it was the actor, Jack Nicholson.
Oh, wow. Really?
That was bigger than acting, music. That moment to me was probably the greatest societal moment I've ever covered.
Were you at the Masters that he just won a couple years ago?
No, luckily I don't have to go anymore. I don't have to eat any more pimento cheese sandwiches, schlepp through the mud. I mean, it was fun for 32 times, but then you get a little sick of it. No. But that was interesting about that Masters win. He didn't do anything thrilling. He just made pars and let everyone else set their own boats on fire. And that's what he did. He just outsmarted everybody. 5 guys, I think, hit it in the water on 12. Molinari hit it off that pine cone on 15. I mean, everyone's self-destructed, and rightly so. It's so tense. But he did it. And so that was so good for him. That was the first time I've seen him really show emotion, his true feelings on the inside when he went crazy and started hugging his family. And having been there when he hugged Earl, I swear it was the exact same piece of grass where the hug happened. It was spine chilling.
He's one of those guys that the pressure never seemed to affect. We haven't seen a whole lot of that this year, especially. Like we've been following the tour pretty closely this year.
Scotty Scheffler's been on a Tiger-esque run.
He's been on a pretty good run, but the younger guys in the 24 to 26 year range that continuously make it, and like on Sunday they're still in the hunt. Mm-hmm. They've seemed to pretty much man for man buckle at some point, right? And I wonder.
I don't think that's right. I think Scheffler. You can say, oh, he had a 4-shot lead at the Masters on Sunday. It's the Masters on Sunday.
Sure.
I was with Greg Norman when he had a 6-shot lead in '96.
Oh, you were there?
Him and I in the locker room, and this asshole British writer, Peter D'O'Brien, comes up. He's dead now. Good. And he comes up, to Shark and says, Sharky, even you can't fuck this up. And Shark looked at him and like, Peter, you can't say that. And we all felt it.
Yeah.
It was just doomed. I saw Rory do it. I saw Spieth blow the lead. It's really hard. So, yeah. And also Max Homa's been coming through. Mm-hmm. I think Justin Thomas is a clutch player.
Yeah.
I
mean, Rahm finally sealed one up, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. Like he's been favored at every single tournament.
And he's not one of the ones I'm talking about. He's been in the hunt every time. I think maybe just having to carry that giant ass around everywhere has been affecting him.
Yeah, that dump truck ass.
What is up with his? He's got like a fucking Brazilian woman's ass.
When you have a club foot, you have to work extra hard, and the weight is distributed differently.
You should just put a wheel down there.
And that dump truck ass of his,
Dustin Johnson is impervious to pressure because I don't think he knows what's going on. I once wrote, Dustin Johnson is so dense, light bends around him. And apparently, I see his agent the next day. I said, was he mad? And he said, he wasn't mad because he doesn't know what the hell it means.
Not a physics guy, huh?
So funny. It's a perfect match for Paulina then. The two of them.
I'm walking with Paulina and Jenna Sims. Let's see, Dustin and Koepka, Shinnecock, U.S. Open. What year was that? 18 maybe? And they're walking along, and, I'm just thinking maybe I'll get a nugget or something to write. And also they're gorgeous. Somebody does something ahead of them. They're not even to the green yet. And Paulina says to Jenna Sims, Brooks Koepka's girl, did Dustin just win? And Jenna's like, I don't know. I'm like,
man.
No, Brooks has got a 3-shot lead, and they're not even at the green. What are you talking about? They're not exactly Mensa candidates.
But I bet it was a blast hanging out with him for the day. Like, you can't deny that.
Oh, I didn't do the whole day. Shit. It was really fun to watch guys' eyes pop out of their heads.
Speaking of eyes popping out of their heads, I hate to go back to Tiger again, but you described his bug eyes in the book, and it's just the intensity of them. So I saw him play at the Masters one year, and I saw him play at the Memorial a couple times in Columbus, Ohio. He's one of those guys that is so intense that you're almost afraid to look directly at him. Where is that in the rest of these guys that are out now? I don't feel like there's that aura around anybody that scares anyone like Tiger Woods used to physically scare people on the course.
No one's like Tiger Woods. May never be another person like Tiger Woods. Jack was like that. But I remember standing with Tita, his mother, and his agent, we're both standing there, or all three of us are standing there waiting for Tiger to come out. And he's got to go practice. He's got 1 hour to warm up. And then I think he had the lead or something. It was a big day. I think it was Sunday. And he comes out and he blows right past his mother and his agent. And she's like, baby. And Hughes Norton was his agent. Said, Tiger, one thing. And whew, he didn't even see his own mother. That's how focused he was. And yeah, Ray Floyd was like that. I remember at the Shinnecock when Floyd beat Payne Stewart. It was like the 16th hole on Sunday, and Payne had to come out of the restroom. He went to a porta potty. They were playing, and then Ray Floyd passes him, and Payne tries to make a joke like, boy, I shouldn't have had Mexican last night or something. And Ray Floyd just stared a hole in his head. And Payne's like, oh, sorry, And Ray Floyd took it. You couldn't mess with Ray Floyd. He'd scream at you. And so yeah, Tiger's undefeated in that.
Yeah, Tiger was like that. Another one, Kobe, because I saw Kobe in real life. I got to meet him once, very, very briefly. He's got that intensity to him, and it was at a Puff Daddy's white party too, and it was just like, dude, there's no need to be this intense.
It's pretty common with baseball pitchers. I think that's probably where you see that the most when they're locked in. Like, right, if Max Scherzer is in the 6th inning and he's got a no-hitter, do not even look at him because he will fucking stab you. You know what I mean? Like it's a level of intensity that's like, I think it has probably something to do with the fight or flight mechanism because when it gets disrupted, people lose it.
Tom Brady's like that.
Yeah.
He's the nicest guy ever. How's your wife? How's your kids? Screaming at people on the sideline, just MFing this line, everybody. And that's just pure competitiveness. John Elway is like that. The nicest guy until you start competing against him. And he had this pool table at his house in Colorado, and he'd never lost on it 2 games out of 3. You had to win 2 out of 3. And one night, Bubby Brister is coming over for a party, and he beats him, and Elway sold the table the next morning. Couldn't stand to look at the table. That's what these guys are like. They're not human beings.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, since you were talking about baseball, do you still follow baseball at all? Are you out of that world?
No, I couldn't be more bored by baseball. I tried. I played it, but I just find it really dull to watch.
And that's why I bring it up. So it seems like it's missing a lot of excitement these days, and they're having a hard time getting people in. For example, last night, there was a guy for the Angels that threw a no-hitter. It is on the bottom of ESPN.
A rookie.
Who threw a no-hitter, which is impossible. It is buried at the bottom of ESPN. It's not even close to one of their top 10 stories.
Well, it's also the Angels, right? So it's double fucked.
Yeah, because you're in LA. Yeah.
But it's their own fault. They don't gain anything by a guy taking a pitch, stepping out, readjusting his gloves, hat, Velcro, belt, crotch, and socks. They don't sell any more ads. Nothing happens. Get him back in the fucking box. There's no reason they should step out of the box at all if they haven't swung. That should be rule number 1. Rule number 2 is you can't leave the box for more than 7 seconds. You don't need to readjust all your gloves and all that stuff just because. And so I asked a player once, I think it was Mike Hargrove, they call him the human rain delay. I realize you step out, even when you take a pitch, you step out and redo everything. No, it was Garciaparra.
Yeah, Garciaparra with the batting glove.
Yeah, Nomar.
Like
yeah.
Good God.
I'm trying to do a column on how slow the game is because I timed the amount of times in a 3.5-hour game that the ball is actually doing something, and I think it was like 11 minutes.
That is still, by the way, higher than football.
Higher than what do you mean higher than football?
The ball is in play more in baseball than in football.
Sure, but
It's
if every baseball play ended with somebody getting fucking wrecked, we would be having a different conversation. You know what I mean?
Well, anyway, Garciaparra, I said, do you realize you do that even after a ball? He goes, I do. yeah, I mean, you haven't even swung and you redo it all again. And we're just sitting up there with nothing to do. He goes, I do that? Like, it's all baseball is such a game of habits that they don't even they could fix it, but they won't.
They're also extremely superstitious.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about today's game versus let me ask this a different way. I was a big fan of what we now refer to as the steroid era because it was exciting. And I'm a huge baseball fan. I can still find enjoyment in the game, but the more people that are watching, typically the better the product's going to be, right? Because the more money spent on it, so on and so forth. I know you've been really critical of PEDs in the past, like pretty much every time they've ever come up. So I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah, and if you were covering it at that time, did you know the era that he's talking about? Were you covering Sosa and McGwire during that?
Well, you don't remember I asked Sosa to come with me to take a steroid test?
Oh yeah, before the Mueller report, I think.
Before they brought in drug testing.
Yeah.
Because, just to defend myself, I said, Sammy had been telling people he can't wait for testing because he was going to prove himself to be clean. This is a guy that went from never hitting more than 39 home runs to 66. This is a guy that left the season looking like the number 1 and came back looking like the number 8, right? I mean, he just completely changed his body. He was working out 3 times a day. So I said, hey, there's a lab 10 minutes from here. You and I could get in the car after the game tonight, and they're waiting for us, and you could take the test, and you could prove yourself clean. And he started screaming at me in Spanish and asking me, was I his father, and asking about my mother's parental head. And I said, look, man, you're the one that said it. He said, I get this body because I work out 3 times a day. And I'm like, yeah, because you can do that on steroids, right? I've been on steroids for other medical problems, and you can set all kinds of personal lift records and stuff like that. And so he didn't realize when he said that and of course, it turns out we know he was doping. We know he shrunk as soon as the game was over. We know his bat was corked. He turned pink for some reason. I don't know if he was mainlining Pepto-Bismol. But yeah, so I hated that era, but I can kind of see your point because I'm kind of a hypocrite. I think it's boring. And yet here was the most exciting era I've seen. And I ripped that too. So I guess I see your point.
Well, I'm not sure if people were mad about the steroids as much as they were mad about the fucking lying and crocodile tears. Like Rafael Palmeiro on the stand in front of Congress, doing the Bill Clinton, I did not have sex with that woman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, come on, dude. We all know you're on fucking juice. Just say like, hey, you know what? Everybody was doing this.
Yeah.
And I still hit more home runs than everybody else. So,
what about Sosa suddenly couldn't speak English?
Oh, yeah, it was really convenient, wasn't it?
13 years. Oh, I just lost all my English. Had to go through an interpreter.
Oh, dude, that was one of the wildest things ever. That Roger Clemens, where I don't know if it was Adderall. He just kept licking his lips over and over and over again and drinking water, or he was nervous.
That happens when people get nervous. There's a test where you give somebody.
What happens when you lie?
If you think somebody's lying, give them Rice Krispies because they won't be able to spit it out because they won't have any saliva.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
It's a super old interrogation technique.
No shit. Is that what you guys used to do overseas?
Not us. No, we were fucking people up by then. But yeah, like a softer version of it is that, yeah.
Okay, here we are in Abu Ghraib. We're giving them Rice Krispies. See if you can handle that.
It's like 80,000 pallets of Rice Krispies. What's going on here? Kept who is it? Nabisco that makes that? Yeah, kept Nabisco.
You mentioned Clinton. And there's a story in here about I played golf with Bill Clinton when he was president. And people said, did he cheat? I'm like, well, kind of, yes. He had 24 clubs in his bag, which is 10 over the limit. And he would play his first ball. He'd hit his first ball, but then he would hit what we call billigans, which is we started calling them billigans because they're practice shots. And he would hit 5 or 6 more of those. The day took like 6 hours, as opposed to when I played with Trump, it's over in like 3:15. But anyway, he hit a lot of extra shots, but then he would play his first ball. But since every, Secret Service guy and staff guy wants to end up, the ambassador to Switzerland, he's like, which ball is the first one? Like, oh, I'm sure it's on the green. I think it just went near the pin. And in that way, he shot 82, which I don't think he really did. But he was a lot of fun. And he would give you the elbow when a hot girl walked by. And it was a lot of fun.
Well, Trump...
Did they tell you I'm a reporter here at all?
Some people don't care, I guess. But Trump, my buddy was on his security detail for a long time, and he said, maybe you can confirm this since you play with him, his habit is to, if he's anywhere near the pen, he's picking it up, and that, like, I would have made that, picks it up and walks away. Is that how that goes?
Well, dude, I wrote an entire book about Trump cheating at golf. It's called it was 4 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, or as Trump would say, 4 years. Because, I mean, he took that day 7 mulligans. His circle of love around the green was the size of a Winnebago. Everything was good. But for me, do I got to hit putt this? Yeah, you better brush that in. Like, it's 3 feet. You just took a 7-footer. He took a gimme chip in. I've never seen this. He's off the green, picks it up. I'm like, what the hell just happened, Donald? He's like, oh, I wouldn't have missed that. Are you kidding? You chipped like Edward Scissorhands. You're terrible. He's like, no, I'd have made that. And then, so that day, I think he shot 78 and I shot 81 or something. He starts introducing me as Rick Reilly, owner of Sports Illustrated. I'm like, no, I'm just a writer. Oh, here's Rick Reilly, shot a 73 today. No, I didn't. So everything goes through that Trump-o-meter, and that's how come he gets to tell people he's a 2.8 when he's actually a 10. I mean, you would bet him for your children's lives at 2.8.
But he's telling a better story about your life, so you should feel honored. Like, I wish somebody would walk around with me and just kind of beef me up all day. That's Ross. Yeah, 5-time New York Times bestselling author Ross Patterson.
But the problem is he tells lies that everybody can check. Like I've been with him a lot, and he'll like, oh, Trump Los Angeles is better than Pebble Beach. Like, what? No, it's not, Donald. Shut up. No, it is. You can ask anybody. Okay, I'll ask anybody. Like he has a course near Pine Valley. And he says, actually, most people will tell you my course is better than Pine Valley. I'm like, Donald, Pine Valley's #1 in the world. Who told you this? And it turns out it was his caddy.
Well, Pebble Beach, you got to pay just to drive through the fucking place.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're not doing that at Trump's course.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, $300. Oh, and if you wear a Pebble Beach shirt to his course down here in Trump, LA, he makes you, the pro makes you take it off and buy a Trump shirt.
Yes.
That's how serious he is about this lie.
Yes. That's awesome.
That's really funny.
You know, his caddies carry 4-inch green tees. He makes them carry them everywhere because when he hits it in the rough and there's nobody near, they tee it up for him in the rough.
Really? Oh, that's genius.
His caddy master, Tim Peel, told me that on the record.
They should sell those. Like everybody should have one of those. Like that's a genius idea. Yeah. Time to trademark it. Now's the point in the show. We get to the Drinkin' Bro of the Week, which is someone who has inspired you or helped you become the person you are today. Who would you like to give the Drinkin' Bro of the Week to?
Help me become the bad thing about me or the good thing about me?
No. The
Either
person
way.
you are today. Yeah, they could have made you a horrible person or a better person. It's up to you. Living or dead, Rick. You know a lot of dead people, apparently.
Oh, I guess it's got to be my brother. You know, he was old. He's 7 years older. He protected my mom when my dad would come home. He taught me to love golf. We didn't have any money, so, you know, he'd teach me how to sneak on golf courses. He's a guy that plays 5 times a week, taught me a million shots, taught me what it's like to be a dad. He's a great guy. And I kind of felt like he kept at least the boy side of the family from coming apart. You know, I wanted to leave a lot, and he always kept me there. And so I kind of feel like as far as my life goes, he was more my father than my actual father.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Last question before you get out of here. Dream foursome. Who is it? If you get to pick one group to head out with you and play a full 18.
Well, I would definitely pick John F. Kennedy because he's my political hero, and then I'd pick Tom Lehman, who I'm buddies with, and is a fantastic guy, and then I'd pick Bill Gates because he sucks, and then Lehman and I could go against him and JFK and make a bunch of money. That's my foursome. And then afterwards we have JFK tell Marilyn Monroe stories all night.
Oh, there's plenty of those. I just watched that doc on Netflix about Marilyn Monroe. I didn't know him and the brother were both fucking her.
Well, that's what they say. And one of the hotels they picked was right there by Wilshire Golf Course in LA. You can see the suite. I'd like to go up there and see what's left, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You can really look down on that course.
Yeah, that's a lot better than the book depository.
Yeah.
Kim Kardashian wore the backless happy birthday dress, the actual dress.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I saw that.
Yeah, and then-
I
and then-
didn't know it was the actual dress.
Well, here's the crazy part about it is they had somebody waiting on her, like right off to the side. So she wasn't allowed to walk in. She was allowed to wear the dress on the carpet. She had a change in the car. And then as soon as she got off the carpet, they took it off of her and then put it back in the museum.
You're kidding.
No. And that was the only way around that.
It's wild.
I'm surprised they had the same size ass. That's what I asked my wife. I was like,
That doesn't seem possible because I was at the Super Bowl once. Well, it was a great night because I'm sitting with Marv Albert, my buddy, and our two wives. And here comes Reggie Bush to say hello to us, and he's with Kim Kardashian. And have you ever met her?
yes.
Oh my gosh, she's so beautiful, right?
Gorgeous. And by the way, I met her back in the Reggie Bush days.
Yeah, most beautiful thing you've ever seen coming right at you. Then, okay, goodbye. And you turn and you could set a 6-pack on the top of her ass. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know how she does it.
It's insane.
2 minutes later, we're sitting there and OJ Simpson comes up to our table. And here comes OJ. And Marv goes, oh shit, it's OJ. And my wife takes her steak knife and puts it on her lap. Which I thought was just such a perfect move.
We've got a signed OJ jersey on our set over there. It's obviously
guys
before
see
the killings. We're just a huge fan of his running back. You know, he's out there looking for the real killer still, Rick.
Oh yeah. I played with him once after the trial. And I'm like, OJ, can I play? I noticed you only have 2 guys. It was at Making the Turn at Rancho Park in LA. And I said, I only have 2 guys. Can I join you? He goes, yeah, but you can't ask me any questions about the incident. Just golf questions. Yeah, sure, golf questions. And so my first question was, now, has your backswing changed since you killed those 2 people? I wanted to.
We've had that debate on this show forever if we were to have him on, because we were close to having him on one time, but they said the same thing. They were like, well, you can't ask him about the murders. And I was like, well, it's kind of what he's known for. So do you mind, maybe at the end of the show if we sneak it in?
I'm a big Hurts fan.
You didn't ask him something.
No, we didn't.
We would have to. You got to ask him something.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't get the opportunity to have him on. He saw a meme from Mother's Day that I guess he wasn't a fan of on our page, and the interview got canceled. But we were close to getting the juice on. But everybody wants to know that answer. I mean, Judith Regan. I don't know if you know her in the publishing world. She did that book, If I Did It. And
If I did it.
Yeah. Do you remember that? And he did the whole sit down with Fox for an hour with her.
Right, I remember it. So one more story from that Super Bowl night. So after Simpson leaves, the maitre d' comes up and we asked him, like, what did he want, And he said, the maitre d' goes, well, he wanted a table, but he didn't have a reservation. So the maitre d' goes, so I said to him, if I did have a table, it would have been over there, but I didn't. I don't have a table. But if I did, and I said, did he get the joke? And he said, no, he didn't get the joke.
Oh, boy. Fucking juice, dude. Fucking juice. Look, you're out there. The killer's out where you live, so just watch your back every day.
I thought he's living in Florida.
No,
No,
he's in Vegas. He's in Vegas, but he claims he will not go back to Los Angeles because he's afraid of running into the real killer. And he said that maybe 6 or 7 months ago. So just be careful, Rick. According to OJ, the killer's still out there.
The real killer is if he has a mirror in his house.
Rick Reilly, thanks for being here. It's been an absolute treat. One of my heroes and one of the finest writers of all time. The book is called So Help Me Golf, Why We Love the Game. It is out everywhere today. Thank you for being here. Check out this book. It's a great read, and there's some funny stories, some emotional stories, and it's just a blast all the way around.
One thing about the book, I signed 3,000 of them for Barnes & Noble, and so you can go on the Barnes & Noble website and you can get a signed one. But I think 2 or 3 of them had nacho stains in them because I was watching the playoffs at the time. But so if people want to sign one, they can do that, or if they want it personalized, they can go to my website, Rick Reilly Online, and I'll personalize it.
Perfect. And if you do get the nacho stain one, send that in here, and
Words more.
we'll put it up on set here in the background.
That was fun, you guys. Thank you.
It was a blast. Thank you so much, Rick. For D'Anthony Holloway, Rick Reilly, I'm Ross Patterson. This is the Drinkin' Bros podcast. Good.